They were the loudest, most controversial family in basketball. A father who couldn't stop talking, sons who were hated before their careers even began, and a brand that was mocked as nothing but being overhyped. LaVar Ball promised the world that his sons would dominate the NBA, that they'd build an empire, and that they were all destined for greatness. But the world just laughed, as they claimed not only did he exploit his sons, but they labeled him as the worst thing to ever happen to basketball in 100 years. But here's the thing, because everything LaVar promised actually came true. From multi-million-dollar deals to LaMelo and Lonzo Ball's dominance, the NBA's most hated family proved everyone wrong. But how did they do it? And why did so many people hate them in the first place? Well, to figure that out, we have to go back to the early 2000s. LaVar Ball, alongside his wife, Tina, had welcomed 3 sons into the world: Lonzo, LiAngelo, and LaMelo, a trio that their father had huge plans for. LaVar, given that he worked as a basketball coach out of his Chino Hills home, was not only always present for his children, but was frequently not only training his sons against each other, but also older players from around their neighborhood.
They were always the smallest on the court, because when you 6 and 7, playing against somebody who's a 12 and 13 and 14,
the smallest ones, yeah.
You very small. Melo always been a small. He was 11 years old playing in 17U. Wow. AAU.
Leadership, which saw all 3 of his sons skyrocket into becoming prize prospects for various prep schools around the United States. However, the Ball boys took a much different path than other potential NBA players, with the trio opting to attend their local public school, Chino Hills.
I've always told him it's not the school to make the dude, it's the dude to make the school.
While it did take some time for LaVar's master plan to come true, as the 2015-2016 season rolled around, all 3 of his sons had made it onto Chino Hills' varsity team and were ready to chase a California state championship. A goal that not only would the flashy, fast-paced, and exciting Ball family-led side achieve, but they did so by incredibly not losing a single game. But this wasn't the only goal the Ball's father had in mind for his children.
Now my preference, like I said, is the Lakers, but for my sons, all of them, I want to make sure all of them get to the NBA, and that's the goal.
And with Lonzo ready to head off to UCLA to begin his collegiate career, and the other 2 Balls also having scholarships to represent the Bruins, LaVar was just a few years away from potentially having all 3 of his sons playing in the NBA. However, this is where things start to get truly insane. Because thanks to Lonzo's incredible freshman season for the UCLA Bruins, in which the potential NBA guard would average 15 points, a nation-high 7.7 assists, whilst also shooting 42% from 3, LaVar would make some very interesting comments.
You think he can be as good as Steph Curry in the NBA?
Heck no! He's gonna be better than Steph Curry in the NBA.
Meanwhile, back in Chino Hills, LaMelo, now a sophomore and running the show alongside his brother and now senior, LiAngelo, was doing even crazier things. As on February 7th, 2017, Melo didn't just have a great shooting game, he had an insane 92-point game.
LaVar is cherry picking, isn't he?
Hey, check that out, I love cherries. And if you're gonna let me sit back there and cherry pick without putting somebody back there, you just don't know how to coach. So it's okay. If you cherry pick, you should score every time because it's 5-on-4.
Combine this mind-boggling scoring night with Melo's 26-point and 10-assist averages, LaVar would make yet another intriguing prediction.
And I always had this concept right here where I've said at the moment right now, Lonzo's the best. Yeah. Jello is my strongest, so he has the potential to be the best because on the next level, they get bigger and faster. He like that naturally. Melo's going to be the best on the fact that he's the youngest.
Right.
More experience learning from his other brother.
Right.
But when,
so that's
when
where
you
he's
told
at.
me that.
However, back on UCLA's campus, Lonzo was set for a battle with the Dylan Brooks-led Oregon Ducks. And after Zoe did this,
Ball steps back, long 3,
his father would make even more insane claims.
I watched a little bit of Lonzo Ball because, you're hearing so much, and his dad has forced you to watch him because you want to see who is this kid that's better than Steph Curry. And then I think it's on Friday, his dad said he's better than LeBron and Westbrook. So he really lost me. But I wanted to see who is this kid that his dad said is better than a 2-time MVP, better than a Hall of Famer in Jason Kidd. So I watched him a little bit.
Are you going to scale back, LaVar? I would
Scale back?
I would submit to you.
Is that French and go forward?
But as February was coming to a close, the Ball family would receive some truly devastating news. Tina, who had helped mold her sons into incredible young men, would suffer a life-threatening stroke.
Sometimes the Lord puts certain blocks in front of you to see if you're going to keep going. And that's what the boys were strong enough to believe in me, that I got your mom, don't worry about it. So go ahead and keep playing basketball, because she would be like, man, go ahead and play.
Which is exactly what they did. LiAngelo would go on to lead the whole state of California in scoring at 33.8 points per game. LaMelo was doing LaMelo things. And Lonzo had led his UCLA side to be just 4 W's away from winning a national championship. A battle against the Kentucky Wildcats that had only been elevated, all thanks to LaVar Ball and his comments, leading Kentucky guard De'Aaron Fox to share this.
What was your mindset going into that? Shut LaVar Ball up?
As this win or go home matchup continued, Lonzo would ultimately struggle. The eldest Ball brother would only score 10 points, and while he did throw 8 assists, Zoe did so while also having 4 turnovers. A subpar performance which resulted in Fox and his Wildcats eliminating the Bruins. A loss that prompted LaVar to say this.
Can't win no championship with 3 white guys because the foot speed is too slow.
Yet, despite this failure, one thing was becoming very clear. LaVar only had one place that he wanted his sons to end up.
I don't want my boy to be the best college player ever. I want him to be the best pro player on the highest level ever.
But all these comments over the past year would begin to see people comparing Ball to that of an annoying pageant parent, as well as saying,
sounds like Khris Jenner. He sounds like he wants to use his kids, push them to celebrity so he can also build his own celebrity.
However, despite what people thought, LaVar was being proved right.
With the second pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Lonzo Ball from UCLA.
You already got the Lakers hat.
I'm trying to tell you, I knew this was happening before it was happening.
When did you get this hat made?
When he was a baby.
And the big baller, as he was known as, would foretell yet another prophecy.
This man said, get Lonzo Ball and watch, it's gonna be the same as Magic. This is what you said on national television.
Twice. And be better than that. How's that?
So, would Lonzo actually be able to live up to this claim? Could LiAngelo see the same success as his older brother in his freshman year at UCLA? And how would LaMelo perform as the lone Ball at Chino Hills? And finally, are you subscribed to Out of Bounds? If you aren't, make sure you change that by subscribing right now, or at the end, or never. It's up to you. You don't have to do anything. July 7th, 2017. LA's second pick is set to make his debut for the Lakers at the NBA Summer League against California rivals, the Los Angeles Clippers. However, Zoe began to struggle. With every missed jump shot, the hatred people had towards his father only grew stronger, almost as if every single brick proved their own beliefs right. Yet, Lonzo never cared about what anyone had to say about himself or his father.
Has there ever been a time you wanted your dad to stop talking?
No, because I know he's never going to stop talking. He's been talking since I've been born like that.
Therefore, Ball would begin to turn things around. As this preseason competition progressed, Lonzo would not only just showcase his incredible passing skills, prove that his unconventional jump shot could work at the NBA level, but he would explode onto the scene. Zoe's 16.3 point, 7.7 rebound, 9.3 assist averages, and his 36-point night versus the Philadelphia 76ers Summer League team saw the eldest Ball be named as the Summer League MVP.
Y'all about to see the best guard with Magic, what he was doing. He finna pass the torch to Lonzo. Lonzo finna step over him and be the best guard ever.
But while Lakers fans shared LaVar's excitement, those within the NBA were hungry to prove him wrong.
He put a target on his neck, not his back. He got a target right here.
However, back in Chino Hills, trouble was brewing.
LaVar Ball, according to the LA Times and Ramona Shelburne, is pulling LaMelo Ball from Chino Hills High School and will homeschool him for the next 2 years, as well as, of course, train him.
A move which saw many begin to question LaVar's parenting.
But the youngest son, I gotta tell you, this is a recipe for disaster.
With journalist Nancy Armour calling him the worst sports parent ever.
To me, I'm the best parent in the world. It's how you raise your kids, your way. If they successful and they, nothing bad in jail or hurting people, Hey, that's a good job.
Yet, while LaMelo was at home preparing for his shot at the NBA, Lonzo was ready to make his professional debut against the LA Clippers. But on the other side of the floor, Clippers guard Patrick Beverley was hungry to show Zoe exactly what the NBA was really about.
He said he went up and told Lonzo, you're going to have to be ready because of that he called it riffraff, all the things that LaVar has spoken about.
Beverley would then spend the whole game giving the Lakers rookie his welcome to the NBA moment.
But he made it very clear after the game. He said, make no mistake, and he went this far. He said, Lonzo is a great talent with a good feel for the game, but the father is the problem.
But despite Lonzo's struggles in his first game, LaVar wasn't worried.
But tonight was not a great night. You said it was going to be a great opening night.
It was a great opening night.
What? How? Explain.
Big Baller brand went up 12%. It's always good. Even when you lose, I win. You see what I'm saying? Big Baller brand, we here to stay.
I tell
you what, Lonzo did good.
How? What game were you watching? How did he do good tonight? Well, how did he do good tonight? Explain that, Mr. Coach.
Trust that in LA's next game against the Phoenix Suns would ultimately pay off, because Lonzo would not only respond and perform exactly how LaVar believed he could, but Zoe, with his 29-point, 11 rebound, and 9 assist show, was literally just a single assist away from his first ever triple-double in the NBA. However, as LiAngelo, now a freshman at UCLA, was getting ready to play some preseason games in China, Gelo's life would take a dramatic turn.
3 UCLA basketball players are reportedly under arrest for shoplifting in China.
And one of those players is the younger brother of Lakers rookie Lonzo Ball.
While the trio would escape sentences in China, upon arrival back to UCLA, the group was ultimately suspended indefinitely. So, with no return in sight, LaVar would make yet another shocking decision, pulling LiAngelo Ball out of UCLA, a move that would be met with even more criticism.
For all the people who stood on the corner and said, you know something, this guy's a good dad. I'm just gonna tell you, what kind of parenting is this? Because there was all kind of people, oh, you know something, this guy's great. This guy got his kids scholarships. This guy got. No, those kids in talent. Because UCLA is not giving scholarships away to any dad. They're giving scholarships away to kids who have talent to make their university better. And now he's doing the kids a disservice. And now this is bad parenting. And he should be called out on that.
As well as people worrying about what Gelo was actually going to do with his career.
I compared him to Empire. LaVar's Lucius Lyons. Jamal is Lonzo. LaMelo is Akeem. And Andre is Jello. He got to go into family business. He can't sing. He ain't gonna be no R&B. He ain't gonna be no rapper. It's okay to run daddy business.
Yet, of course, LaVar had a plan. But before he could execute it, Lonzo was facing some problems of his own. Because Zoe, who had shined during the Summer League and proved that his game could translate to the league, was beginning to falter. The former UCLA star was only averaging 7.5 points on an abysmal 26% from the field. Issues which LaVar pinned on the Lakers head coach.
What's my biggest issue with Luke Walton is the way he plays my son.
A comment which saw many other NBA coaches come to Walton's defense, including Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr.
He's become like the Kardashian of the NBA.
But despite what LaVar thought of Lonzo's coach and his shooting struggles, Zoe was still showcasing one of the key talents which saw him drafted so high, recording 13 assists versus the Pelicans, 10 versus the Wizards, and 9 against the Grizzlies. However, it's what Zoe did on November 11th, 2017, which would truly amaze the NBA world. As versus the Milwaukee Bucks, Lonzo would destroy a record that had stood for nearly 20 years. Because thanks to his 19-point, 12 rebound, and 13 assist performance, the ex-Chino Hills star had broken LeBron James' record and had become the youngest player in league history to record a triple-double. Yet, in their late December battle with the Portland Trail Blazers, Zoe would suffer a shoulder injury that forced the young guard to sit out the next 6 games. And it was during this period where Lonzo's father would make yet another insane move.
I don't care, we're playing Africa, we're playing on the moon. As long as both of them boys is out there balling, we'll make a new movie, call it Ball Jam.
Taking LiAngelo and LaMelo to play in Lithuania.
Triple B's, baby. We here.
I will be surprised if these kids last more than 1 week in a village, non-speaking English village, of 10,000 in Lithuania.
But before both Jello and Melo could see the court overseas, their older brother would suffer yet another injury, as in a regular season game with the Dallas Mavericks, Lonzo would tragically tear his meniscus, a diagnosis which saw Zo having to sit out for at least another 6 weeks. Yet, during Lonzo's recovery period, his brothers were starting to ball out, pun intended. Sorry. That was terrible. Jello was averaging 16.5 points and 3 rebounds, whilst Melo, who was still just 16 years old, was dropping 6.5 points and 2.4 assists each night. But these statistics weren't even the craziest part, as in just their 3rd game overseas, the pair would amazingly combine for 60 points, LaMelo dropping 31 and Jello contributing 29. However, as the 2018 NBA draft was fast approaching, and LaVar being unhappy with the head coach and how he played LaMelo, the big baller would once again pull both of his sons out of their Lithuanian team and return back to the United States. To make things worse, while Lonzo had returned and played well, averaging 9.9 points, 7.9 assists, and 6.4 rebounds, once again versus the Dallas Mavericks, the Lakers rookie would have his knee re-injured and was then ruled out for the remainder of his rookie season. So, had LiAngelo actually done enough in Lithuania to get drafted? Would Lonzo figure out his shooting form? And what was LaMelo gonna do now? June 21st, 2018. As the second round of the NBA draft was coming to a close, LiAngelo, despite what him and his father had been told by Lakers president Magic Johnson and general manager Rob Pelinka, had gone undrafted.
So they led you to believe, so Magic led you to believe that he would at least give Jello an opportunity.
Yes. Him and Rob. Behind closed doors, we did talking, just like grown men. You don't have to put it all out there. Right. But hey, I ain't saying put my boy on the team or nothing like that. Let him play with Lonzo and see how he do. If he does raggedy, then he'll be like, I don't think it'll work. But let him and Lonzo do their thing together. They've always been successful together. So that's why I was just like, I can't roll with y'all now.
But while Magic and Rob had told LaVar they were gonna select Jello, they would make good on another prediction that LaVar had made.
You can start spelling his name L.A.Bron. He'll be here. Because he a businessman. He done did everything in Cleveland. You got to come over here and play with my son.
With one of the greatest players of all time now playing alongside Lonzo, LaVar would make yet another big baller comment.
And Lonzo is not the best player on that team now.
Are you crazy?
Are you saying Lonzo better than LeBron?
Yes.
And would then one-up this statement by saying this.
All right, so do the hypothetical. Let's just say your number one son is the point guard, and on one wing he's got LeBron, and on the other he's got Kevin Durant. Do they win it all?
No, they got to trade Kevin Durant and put in LiAngelo Ball. Then you win it all.
To make things even more insane, LaVar would go on to create his own basketball league, known as the Junior Basketball Association, in an attempt to rival college basketball. The JBA, which promised to pay players up to $10,000 a month, was 100% funded by LaVar and his brand, the Big Baller brand, and was fronted by his own son, LaMelo. However, while Melo was dominant not only domestically in the JBA, but also internationally,
I took the JBA over there and whooped up on all them European teams. I told them they were trying to beat me too, because I told them, I said, your engine gonna tap out at 120 and we go to 140. You'll never beat us.
One thing was becoming clear within the youngest Ball brother. LaMelo just wanted a normal high school experience like everyone else. But due to his professional status, thanks to releasing a signature shoe, would Melo ever actually be able to play high school basketball? Well, before we found out, Lonzo Ball was set to take the floor for his sophomore NBA season. But as the 2018-2019 season progressed, Zo's struggles only continued. His unconventional shooting form would result in the eldest Ball brother shooting just 30% from 3, and even more shocking, 44% from the free throw line.
Loveliest. It'll no longer be the loveliest village on the plane.
What's that? What are you ducking for? Lonzo Ball shooting, some bricks coming around.
Stats which would further pile on the hatred towards LaVar's parenting.
This old big mouth Jack dad has put his kid in an awkward situation all year. And like I say, I don't want to see anything bad happen to the kid, but I don't like his dad at all. and this thing has been a joke from the beginning.
However, on December 15th, 2018, Lonzo was yet again set to enter the NBA record books, because during this regular season game against the Charlotte Hornets, not only would Zoe record a triple-double, but so would LeBron James, a feat that only 5 other pairs in the history of the league had achieved. A moment which saw Lonzo begin to turn things around and showcase one of the other key skills that saw him drafted number 2. Speaking of turning things around, LaMelo, thanks to Spire Academy, was finally back playing high school basketball in America for his senior season. Melo, after adapting to a more traditional basketball environment and thanks to his nonchalant playstyle,
Can you follow me back on Instagram?
yeah, all right, was averaging 26.7 points and just under 10 assists each night. However, questions still remain about what the youngest brother's next step was, because, like I mentioned before, due to his professional status, Melo was ineligible to attend UCLA, and without being able to showcase his talents against legitimate competition, many scouts thought LaMelo simply wasn't good enough to get drafted. Yet, the Ball brother, who was in the NBA, had been slowly proving himself on the other side of the floor. You see, Lonzo, thanks to his athletic gifts, feel for the game, and 6'9" wingspan, was averaging 1.5 steals each night. Combine this defensive talent with his 12.4 point, 5.8 assist, and 5.6 rebound averages, the young Lakers, with their 25 win and 21 loss record, had the playoffs in sight. But on January 16th, 2018, all of that would come crashing down. While LA had initially ruled Lonzo out for a period of 6 to 8 weeks, the team would eventually announce that Zoe was shut down for the remainder of the season, and many began to wonder, would they ever see the eldest Ball brother in a Lakers uniform again? June 16th, 2019.
Breaking news into SportsCenter.
We do. I think the NBA offseason has become more interesting than the NBA regular season, and this is the biggest one of all. The Pelicans have agreed to finally trade Anthony Davis to the Lakers. Now, here's the compensation package. Everybody's wondering, what would they give up? Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. Remember, Ingram has the blood clots in his arm, so that's an issue. Josh Hart, and 3 first-round picks, including the number 4 overall pick in the 2019 draft, which will air this Thursday on ESPN. That league sources tell ESPN.
But what was LaMelo gonna do?
Next year, take my talents to the NBL and play for the Illawarra Hawks.
Excellent. Over in Australia.
Yep.
Absolutely. Why did you decide this is the way to go for you?
I just think it's the best route for me. I'm trying to be the number 1 pick for the 2020 draft.
However, was going to Australia really the right decision for his career? And would the youngest Ball brother actually be able to convince scouts that he was an NBA level player like his brother? Well, in September of 2019, in the NBL's preseason tournament, Melo, playing against grown men and athletes with NBA experience, began to showcase what he was truly capable of. LaMelo was not only scoring from all over the court, but highlighting just how dominant he could be as a passer. Performances which, after just 3 preseason games, saw scouts take a complete 180. Melo was now a projected top 3 pick and was seeing comparisons to the 2018-2019 NBA Rookie of the Year, Luka Doncic.
Well, like I said, my sons are like phones. I keep making them better and better.
Yet, as the actual season progressed, things only got crazier. Firstly, LaMelo was only continuing to prove what his father had been saying all along.
There's something special about this kid, and you guys I've been knowing it since he's been a baby. And so now you guys are getting to see it, and the proof is in the pudding.
Secondly, Melo's 15-point, 5.8 assist, and 2.1 steal averages, combined with dropping a 32-point triple-double and then following that impressive night up with yet another triple-double, saw LaVar make further predictions about his youngest son.
Melo could be something new that people ain't seen before.
Because?
Just because he's different all the way around. He's different all the way around. I mean, from the way he plays the game, he's both hands, he good with either one. The dribbling. He loves the excitement of making shots, dribbling around people. He likes the winning, the passing. It's just like, he's just a different type. And he's loud about it too. But he's gonna shock the world.
Meanwhile, back in the US, Lonzo had been working closely with Pelicans shooting coach Fred Vinson. Coach Vincent would have Zoe change the way he shot the basketball and continue to work closely with the former second pick throughout the season on solidifying those changes. Adjustments which saw Lonzo take a dramatic leap in his percentages, going from barely making 30% of his threes to shooting just under 40% as the 2019-2020 season came to a close. But this wasn't the only positive for Zoe, because the Pelicans had selected Duke Blue Devils phenom Zion Williamson with their #1 pick in the 2019 draft. And while it did take Zion some time to see the court, the pair would eventually form a deadly duo. Things were truly looking up for the eldest and youngest Ball brothers. But what was LiAngelo doing? Well, before we got to find out, Melo was preparing to hear his name called by NBA Commissioner Adam Silver in the 2020 NBA Draft.
With the 3rd pick in the 2020 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select LaMelo Ball from Chino Hills, California.
But it wasn't just LaMelo who had achieved his lifelong goal, because his father, thanks to the Detroit Pistons signing LiAngelo Ball for the 2020-2021 season, had achieved the dream he set out to accomplish all those years ago. However, just 11 days after Jello had inked his deal with the Pistons, Detroit would ultimately waive the middle Ball brother. To make things even worse for the Ball family, serious questions were raised about how LaMelo's nonchalant, street ball-esque playstyle would translate to the league, which, of course, LaVar had a LaVar answer for.
So he's a point or two?
He's always played point out of necessity.
Right.
Like, okay, Lonzo leaves, play point.
Right.
But he loves to score the ball. He loves to score the ball. He did that one time when he scored the 92 points and everybody was like, what'd you think of that? I said, it was the best game ever. Because I unleashed him. I said, man, Jello not playing. Score as many points as possible, son. He loves to score.
Right.
But he will make the passes and do other things.
But after Melo went scoreless in his NBA debut, those questions only grew louder. Meanwhile, in New Orleans, Lonzo was also facing his own struggles, because the Pelicans also had another point guard, Eric Bledsoe, who, throughout the season, Zoe was forced to share his leadership duties with. Combine this with the eldest Ball brothers' inconsistency in play, highlighted best in this 3-game stretch in which Lonzo dropped 33 points, then only scored 7, only to then follow this up by dropping 33 against the exact same team literally one night later, saw both the Pelicans and Zoe being interested in moving on from each other. However, before New Orleans could make any moves, Lonzo's youngest brother was about to do something insane. Because on January 9th, 2021, it would be Melo who had slowly began to find his way in the NBA that would destroy his older brother's record. LaMelo would score 22 points, grab 12 rebounds, and throw 11 assists, crowning him as the youngest player ever to record a triple-double. But this was only the start for Melo, as at the end of that month in a matchup with the championship favorite Milwaukee Bucks, Melo would shoot a very impressive 8 from 10 from the field and 9 from 9 from the free throw line, netting the rookie a 27-point night. A solid performance which stamped out all the questions about his unconventional shooting form. However, despite continuing to slowly figure out NBA defenses and achieving his first 30-point game a week later, LaMelo's rookie campaign would ultimately be cut short thanks to a tragic wrist injury versus the Clippers in late March. While Melo would eventually return, his numbers never truly reached his pre-injury form. But the young star was still averaging 15.1 points, 6.2 assists, and 6.2 rebounds each night. Averages that were great enough to earn the high school dropout the NBA's Rookie of the Year award. Perhaps LaVar Ball's insane plan had actually paid off? Because during the summer before the 2021-2022 season, the Charlotte Hornets permitted their players to invite one other athlete to their preseason workouts, and Melo, of course, brought along LiAngelo. A decision, once the Hornet staff actually saw Jello compete with their own eyes, would see the middle Ball brother land a summer league spot for Charlotte, an opportunity that LiAngelo ran with. In the Hornets' first matchup with the Portland Trail Blazers, in just 16 minutes off the bench, Jello would shoot a very impressive 5 from 8 from 3, resulting in the NBA prospect dropping 16 points. While Jello's minutes would unfortunately shrink as this preseason competition progressed, the former Chino Hills star had played well enough to earn himself a spot on the Hornets' G League team, the Greensboro Swarm.
My best scorer is Jello. Jello better at scoring. So when he get to the league, if he played with his brothers, he would lead the league in scoring.
But this wasn't the only exciting news for the Ball family.
Breaking news as NBA free agency is underway. Lonzo Ball has agreed to a 4-year deal worth $85 million with the Pelicans and will be moved to Chicago as part of a sign and trade, according to Adrian Wojnarowski.
Lonzo, in just his second game with his new Bulls team and against his old Pelicans, was showcasing the potential that many saw when he entered the NBA. Because not only was he throwing insane dimes, racking up 11 assists, but he was also highlighting the incredible improvements he had made with his shooting form by scoring 17 points. Yet this wasn't all, because he was also showcasing just how dominant he was as a defensive point guard by racking up 3 steals.
Lonzo is ranked 8th in defensive win shares in this league. That's hard to do. He's top 10.
Right. But New Orleans wasn't the only former team that Lonzo destroyed, as in their matchup with the Los Angeles Lakers, Zoe would score a season high of 27 points on an amazing 10 from 13 from the field. Yet it just gets crazier, because thanks to Lonzo doing this in an early season matchup against the Brooklyn Nets,
DeMar kicks. Lonzo fires. Oh, hot sauce. Big baller. Zoe comes through in a big moment, Mike.
combined with his 13 point, 5.1 assists, 1.9 steals, and 42% shooting from 3, Chicago was the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. However, the ex-Lakers season was about to take a tragic turn. Meanwhile, over in Charlotte, LaMelo's sophomore season was about to start, and boy, did it start with a bang. Melo would not only debut his 2021-2022 season by dropping 31 points, but the youngest Ball brothers' insane 38-point, 33-point, and 31-point stretch right before the All-Star break, combined with an unfortunate injury to Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant, would see LaMelo be named to the 2022 NBA All-Star Game. However, back in Chicago, Lonzo's life had taken a dramatic turn.
It's a partial tear of his left meniscus, and so the team's saying the timeline is 6 to 8 weeks. It could be shorter. You know, this is an injury. I think they're trying to give him, I think, the long end of what that return might be, but this is the second time he's had this injury. He had a meniscus scope in 2018 with the Lakers, was back in time for the start of the season. So this is certainly a significant blow for this team.
But just weeks after returning to the court as expected, Zoe was shut down for the remainder of the 2021-2022 season. But why? Well, doctors were confused as to what exactly was going wrong in Lonzo's knee. While we wait to find out Zoe's fate, let's go check in on Jello, who, despite only averaging 13 minutes per game in the G League, was showcasing his potential as a professional basketball player. LiAngelo was shooting 35% from 3 and even managed to put up a 22-point game in his G League debut, a feat only made more impressive by the fact that he only played for 24 minutes. Yet, was this actually enough for LaVar to truly achieve his big 3 ball boy's dream in the NBA? And even if it was, with doctors left puzzled looking at Lonzo's knee, would the eldest Ball brother actually return to an NBA court? Because Lonzo was truly struggling.
I literally, I really can't run, so can't run or jump. So there's a range from 30 to 60 degrees when my knee is bent that I have no force and I can't catch myself. So until I can do those things, I can't play. So I did rehab. It was getting better, but it was not to a point where I can get out there and actually go out there and run at, full speed or jump. So surgery is the next step. This is definitely something I've never dealt with. Even the doctors are a little, surprised about it a little bit, but we're all working together to figure this thing out.
Issues that resulted in Zoe being completely ruled out of the 2022-2023 NBA season as the Bulls attempted to figure out what was going on. Not only was Lonzo set to miss a full NBA season, but doctors were starting to inform the young star that he may literally never play another NBA game ever. To make things even worse, LaMelo would suffer a similar fate during their preseason matchup versus the Washington Wizards. While Melo would eventually return from this initial injury on November 16, 2022, less than a month after his first ankle sprain, the Hornets All-Star would suffer the exact same injury against the Indiana Pacers. But this wasn't all, as outside of a 26-point night in a blowout versus the Knicks G League team, Jello was barely seeing the court for the Greensboro Swarm, a clear sign of how NBA teams truly felt towards the Ball family's middle child. Yet their youngest, after returning once again, got straight back to business. LaMelo, still barely in his 20s, was dropping 23.6 points, throwing 8.6 assists, grabbing 6.7 rebounds, and doing so while shooting 38% from 3. However, in a late February game in 2023 against the Pistons, Melo would not only sustain another ankle injury, but this time it was serious. LaMelo Ball had fractured his ankle and was therefore ruled out for the remainder of the 2022-2023 season. With Lonzo set to miss yet another year, LiAngelo's NBA dreams slipping further and further away, and LaMelo's paper ankles, was the Ball family's dominance coming to an end? Well, in an attempt to save his career, Lonzo was about to do something that had literally never been done before in the NBA.
And the new plan they came up with was to have a full cartilage replacement in his knee. That's taking cartilage from a cadaver and putting it into his knee. That's never been done in the NBA.
Wow.
Let alone, it's a couple of tennis players, a couple of NFL players, but nobody had ever done this in the NBA, even attempted it.
A procedure that the eldest Ball brother shined some light on during his podcast. What an experience.
It started with a meniscus tear. Basically started on the Lakers when I tore it the first time. Tore it a couple more times to a point to where there was no more, basically not much meniscus left and bone on bone was rubbing. So the cartilage was gone and the bone was messed up. So I had to get actually a new meniscus from a donor. I had to get a bone allograft and I had to get some new cartilage put in as well.
But despite this surgery, Zoe was still going to miss yet another season, and there was no guarantee that it would actually work. Meanwhile, LiAngelo had begun to pursue basketball overseas, signing with a pro team in Mexico. Yet, after just 3 games with his new team, Jello would suffer a ligament injury in his ankle and would then return to the Big Baller estate to focus on rehabbing with his father. Okay, that's Lonzo and LiAngelo covered, so how was LaMelo doing? Well, to find out, let's dive into this very interesting 9-game streak during the Hornets' 2023-2024 season. Firstly, Melo would drop 34 versus the Washington Wizards, then 32 versus the Knicks, 37 versus the Bucks, 34 versus the Knicks again, 36 versus the Boston Celtics, and 34 again against the Wizards. While LaMelo didn't score 30 plus in every matchup during this period, he had averaged an insane 32.2 points, but get this, he was still throwing 8.7 assists per game. Melo was truly showcasing just how important he was for the Hornets and the future of their franchise. A fact only backed up further by this.
Charlotte Hornets point guard LaMelo Ball was hoping for a contract extension. How does $260 million over 5 years sound? Yep, Ball, one of the most exciting players in the game, is getting paid big time. Ball has agreed to a max contract extension, $260 million if he makes an All-NBA team. If not, it'll only be about $203 million.
However, once again, Melo would be ruled out for the remainder of the 2023-2024 season after sustaining yet another ankle injury, resulting in the now superstar only appearing in 22 out of the 82 games for Charlotte. But things were about to take a massive turn for the whole Ball family in the following 2024-2025 season. Because on October 17th, 2024, after 1,006 days away from NBA action, Lonzo Ball had finally returned to the court.
So back, man. So, you know, it's a blessing to be part of his journey. You know, a lot of us being here through it all, you know, and seeing the highs, the lows. So this was a hell of a night for him. You know, he got the game ball, brother. So, you know what I'm saying?
Is there a moment you can share with us that tells us just about your perseverance that could be a lesson to them as well?
I would say just trusting yourself, first and foremost. You know, if you don't believe you can do it, then who else will, you know? And at the end of the day, just know that it's probably not just you on the trip. You have a bunch of people around you, so you use all the resources, you know, all the emotions you can get from everybody else to bring you up. Because, you know, every day it doesn't feel like the best day, but there's a brighter light at the end of the tunnel, and you just got to get there.
Not only had Zoe made his debut after 2 full seasons away from the league, but his youngest brother was also dominating in his own return to the NBA, as not only would Melo start his 2024-2025 season with back-to-back 34-point games, but on November 23rd, 2024, LaMelo would do something else insane, as once again versus the Milwaukee Bucks, Melo would set a brand new career high of 50 points. Yet this was just the start, because surrounding this incredible performance was a 35-point game versus the Pistons, 44 against the Magic, and 32 versus the Miami Heat. But do you want to know what the craziest part about this is? The younger Sproul brother was doing it all while still throwing 6.9 assists per game. Meanwhile, back at the Big Baller estate, LiAngelo had seemingly figured out his own lane,
I might swerve in that corner, whoa, whoa.
because Jello would release his debut song Tweaker on January 3rd, 2025, a track that became an instant hit and resulted in the middle Ball brother signing a $13 million contract with Universal and Def Jam. However, once again, both Lonzo and LaMelo were facing injury woes. Firstly, Zoe, after only appearing in 35 games for the Bulls, was shut down after struggling with wrist issues. Secondly, LaMelo wasn't just struggling with his paper ankles, but he, much like his brother, was also struggling with wrist problems, resulting in Melo only appearing in just over half of the Hornets games during the 2024-2025 season. While LaVar Ball's eldest and youngest sons have struggled to reach their full potential due to a consistent barrage of injuries, the predictions that their father had made ultimately came true. When they're actually on the court, Lonzo is a do-it-all point guard, LaMelo is an all-star level player that is the face of the Charlotte Hornets franchise, and his middle child had eventually figured out his own lane, a true testament to the parenting of not only LaVar.
And everybody like, LaVar, I want to give you your flowers. Don't give me no flowers. I don't want no flowers. Give me some donuts. I'm a donut man.
But Tina as well. While many choose to hate LaVar for what he said, it can all be boiled down to the Big Baller essentially being a master of what we would now call rage bait. By saying outrageous things, he forced the world to tune into his brand. And for me personally, I think Colin Cowherd sums up LaVar perfectly.
He has 3 sons and speaks proudly of each. And for some, that is highly controversial.
By the way, let me know down in the comments what your favorite LaVar Ball comment or take is. Mine is always going to be this:
one-on-one, I'm undefeated, never lost.
Also, did you know that in a league traditionally dominated by American players, there was a skinny teenager from Greece who ended up becoming one of the league's greatest players? To find out more about the inspiring story of Giannis Antetokounmpo and how he became a 2-time MVP and won one of the most impressive NBA championships of all time, click the video on your screen right now.